The school auditorium buzzed with chatter. Parents filed in, some curious, others skeptical. A few already wore frowns, ready to complain about test scores, discipline, or standards. In the corner, Ms. Daniels quietly arranged her notes. She had faced many storms, but tonight felt heavier because respect wasn't given to her. It had to be earned twice as hard. The moment she walked to the front, the whispers began. "Is she really the teacher?" one mother whispered. "She looks too young," another sneered. Someone muttered, "This is what happens when schools lower their hiring standards." Ms. Daniels heard every word. She stood tall anyway. As she introduced herself, some parents leaned back with mocking smiles. One even whispered loud enough for others to hear, "She's not going to last a semester." Another laughed. "My son probably knows more math than she does." Every insult stung, but Ms. Daniels kept her calm, reminding herself patience reveals truth. Suddenly a father rose from his seat, his voice sharp. "Excuse me, young lady, but I don't think you're fit to be teaching our children. What real qualifications do you have? Did the school board even check your background?" Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. All eyes fixed on Ms. Daniels, waiting to see if she would crumble. Ms. Daniels' heart pounded, but her face betrayed no fear. She set her papers down, folded her hands, and let the silence grow heavy. Parents shifted uncomfortably. Some glanced at one another, realizing the tone had crossed into disrespect. Still, they waited for her to speak. Finally, she spoke, her voice calm but unshakable. "I understand your concerns. But let me be clear. I am not only your children's teacher. I am the founder and the owner of this school. Every brick you see, every program your children enjoy, exists because I built it." Gasps echoed through the hall. Parents who mocked her moments ago now sat in stunned silence. She continued, her voice steady but full of emotion. "When I started this school, banks refused to fund me. Officials told me it would fail. Even my friends doubted me. But I sold nearly everything I owned, worked 3 jobs, and poured every dollar into making this dream a reality for your children." Her words cut deep. Some parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats, ashamed of their earlier laughter. She looked directly at the father who had mocked her. "You said I don't belong here, but I belong here more than anyone, because while others only talked about change, I built it, and I will continue to fight for your children, whether you believe in me or not." The father's face turned red. He lowered his gaze, unable to speak. A mother stood up slowly, tears in her eyes. "I had no idea. Thank you for everything you've done for our kids." Clapping began softly, then spread through the auditorium until nearly everyone was on their feet. Respect that was once withheld now came pouring in like a flood. Ms. Daniels smiled, not out of pride, but relief. "Tonight I didn't just want to talk about education. I wanted to remind us all. Never judge someone's worth by how they look. True strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it stands quietly until the right moment to speak." The applause thundered louder. Parents left that night not only respecting their children's teacher, but humbled, having learned a lesson themselves. When the auditorium emptied, the hallways hummed with new respect and quiet guilt. Ms. Daniels lingered by the bulletin board, reading crayon letters from students. "Thank you for believing in us." A timid 6th grader, Amara, approached. "Miss Daniels?" When they laughed, I thought it was about me, too. Ms. Daniels knelt to eye level. "When people don't know your story, they invent one. We'll help them learn the truth together." She invited Amara and a few student leaders to a new idea. A student voices night where kids would speak about their dreams, challenges, and what respect looks like to them. The outspoken father waited by the exit, hat in hand. "I was wrong," he said, voice gravelly. "My son's been struggling with reading. I'm scared. I took it out on you." Ms. Daniels didn't excuse his behavior, but she didn't weaponize the moment either. "Fear has a loud voice," she replied. "Let's give your son a louder one." She walked him to the literacy lab, introduced him to the reading specialist, and penciled his family into a Saturday coaching session. Accountability, then a path forward. Rather than let the meeting become a legend, Ms. Daniels made it a blueprint. She launched open classroom week so parents could see pedagogy in action, and a bias and belonging workshop. Co-led by a community, mediator, and a local historian. Every parent signed a respect and partnership pledge. Every staff member received restorative practices training. At the first workshop, a parent asked, "Is this about political correctness?" Ms. Daniels shook her head. "It's about academic excellence. Children learn best where dignity is non-negotiable." Rumors that the district might check up on the new teacher reached the central office. A team arrived with clipboards. In room 204, they found student-led seminars, evidence journals, and project boards connecting math to neighborhood small businesses. The inspectors watched a circle discussion where Amara said, "Respect is when adults don't decide who I am before I speak." The room went quiet in the best way. Later, one inspector told Ms. Daniels, "We came for compliance. We witnessed culture." The report recommended sharing the school's model across the district. On Community Day, families painted a hallway mural, open books transforming into birds. Ms. Daniels announced the Daniels Scholars Fund, named for her mother, to cover field trips, glasses, and tutoring barriers that quietly derail potential. The father who once mocked her now chaired the volunteer crew. He adjusted the microphone for Amara, who read the closing line. "In this school, we don't judge if we join." Ms. Daniels looked out at parents, staff, and students, no longer an audience but partners. Respect hadn't arrived by accident. It was designed, defended, and taught, lesson after lesson. News of the PTA night spread beyond the neighborhood. A local blog posted a clip of Ms. Daniels' reveal. Within days, TV vans idled outside the school. Reporters wanted a soundbite about the clapback. But Ms. Daniels set boundaries. No filming children without parental consent. No interviews during instructional time. And if you're here, you'll hear students speak for themselves. She launched a student media team. Kids learned interviewing, editing, and ethical storytelling. When a reporter asked Amara, "How did it feel when adults mocked your teacher?" Amara answered, "This isn't a gossip story. It's about what respect does to learning." The cameras kept rolling, but the narrative shifted from scandal to substance. A high-profile donor offered a massive grant, enough to renovate the library and add a tech lab. Then came the conditions. Rebrand the school, with his name, and institute a selective admissions policy that would quietly edge out struggling learners. In a packed boardroom, Ms. Daniels slid the unsigned contract across the table. "We won't trade access for aesthetics," she said. "Our excellence is measured by who we lift, not who we exclude." The donor withdrew. For a week, staff worried. Then small checks began arriving at barbershop owners, aunties, alumni, even the once skeptical father. "Keep the doors open for kids like mine," his note read. The school raised enough to build the lab, with every name etched on a mosaic wall titled "Many Hands." Not every battle was external. A beloved veteran teacher, Ms. Green, felt displaced by new practices. She rolled her eyes in meetings, skipped circles, and told colleagues, "This too shall pass." Instead of writing her up, Ms. Daniels scheduled a restorative conference. "I miss the way we used to do things," Ms. Green admitted, voice cracking. "I knew who I was in that system." "I hear you," Ms. Daniels said. "Help me design what honors your wisdom and our students' needs." They co-created a heritage inquiry unit. Students curated oral histories with elders, and Ms. Green's classroom became the heartbeat of the project. On showcase day, she whispered to Ms. Daniels, "I didn't lose myself. I evolved." A district memo arrived, a scripted test prep. Program would replace project-based. Learning for 8 weeks. Compliance meant funding. Refusal risked sanction. Ms. Daniels gathered evidence, work samples, growth portfolios, family testimonials, and invited officials for a learning walk led by students. In one room, a child mapped fractions through a micro-bakery. In another, a robotics group debugged code while explaining ratios. At the debrief, a deputy superintendent frowned at the memo. "Waiver granted," he said slowly. "And, would you mentor 3 other schools?" The system hadn't exactly changed, but it had bent for proof of paranoia. By spring, the school hosted Making Day, a community expo where students defended projects like these. The once skeptical father stood at the literacy booth, handing out bookmarks his son designed. Readers build worlds. Amara took the mic at the closing circle. Respect didn't happen by accident, she said. We practiced it like math. That evening, alone in her office, Ms. Daniels wrote a letter to her younger self. You will be underestimated. Let your work answer. Build structures that teach dignity, then trust them to hold when you're tired. She sealed it in an envelope labeled Open When Doubted. Outside, the mural of Books into Birds caught the last light. Not a happy ending, something sturdier. A beginning that knows what it costs and why it's worth it. And so what started as a night of whispers, mockery, and doubt ended as a lesson in dignity, humility, and respect. Ms. Daniels didn't just own the school, she owned her truth. She turned ridicule into revelation, shame into strength, and judgment into justice. Her story reminds us all, never measure a person by how they look, but by the impact they leave behind. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in Ms. Daniels' shoes that night? Would you have stayed silent until the right moment or spoken up immediately? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to know. And if this story moved you, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Thank you for watching, and remember, respect isn't given, it's earned, taught, and lived.